It is June 9th. This is the Town of Rhinebeck regular town board meeting. If anyone would like to say the pledge, please stand.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we have a couple of big things to do tonight. The first one is approval of prior minutes for our May 12th, 2025 meeting. May I have a motion? Thank you, Gina, Colleen. Thank you, Alan. Any comments or concerns? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Passes unanimously. I would like to continue our public hearing for local law to be determined for 2025 for our workforce housing zoning amendment. Is there any further comment from the public? Any further comment from the public? If not, I'll make a motion to close the public hearing. May I have a motion to close the public hearing?
Motion.
Thank you, Chad. May I have a second? Second. All in favor of closing the public hearing? Aye. Aye. Okay, Warren, do we have to say anything, or should I?
Yeah, is this on?
Yes.
You gotta hold it like this.
Okay. All right, if you can't hear me, let me know. There were some changes to the local law from the last meeting, not substantive changes, format changes, because we had received a letter from the planning board with their review of the local law. And the suggestions that they made were not substantive, they were format changes, and I thought that they were good format changes, so I reconfigured the law. It hasn't changed in substance, it's just that one paragraph under the old law has now been divided into two separate paragraphs, but otherwise all the subparagraphs are the same. And we added one section to the end of the local law, which amends the zoning code matrix, where you have, at the end of the zoning code, there's a matrix showing the permitted uses in each district. So we amended the matrix to show how this workforce housing law changed in that matrix. Otherwise, everything is exactly the same as the last version of the law. So with that, I didn't think there was any reason why we had to recirculate or have another public hearing. Again, nothing of import, but it is a better law, I think, after the changes. So I think we're ready
To vote.
for a vote.
Okay, I don't know, everybody. It's been a long time coming. A lot of work has gone into this, a lot of thought. It's kind of emotional. Let's vote.
Great.
Let's have a vote on a local law amending the Town of Rhinebeck zoning map pursuant to Chapter 25, Article 5, Section 125-64.4 to rezone property located between Astor Drive and Rhinecliff Road, State Route 85, tax ID parcel 6170-00-2233336-0000 to permit an affordable workforce housing development within the workforce housing WH district. By roll call, and I'm going to go, I guess, right to left. Dana Colleen Peterson.
Aye. Affirmative, yes.
Chad Kleitsch.
Aye.
Chauncey Walker.
Aye.
Alan Shear.
Aye.
I vote yes as well. It's unanimous. Our workforce housing plan passed.
Just for everybody's information, this is not the end of the process.
Start tomorrow.
We have another 3 years to go. It's going to go to, from here it goes to the planning board, and there are directives in the local law for the planning board, certain waivers. Hopefully that will expedite the process. but we do expect that there will be a review of the project in accordance with what's in the local law and our zoning code, and hopefully the planning board will act expeditiously on that. And when they're finished, it then can go to the building inspector for the issuance of a building permit to start construction.
We are anticipating Ken closing on this around Thanksgiving, and then what, tractors will show up the day after Thanksgiving? Are you gonna give the guys a day off, or just
It'll be Thanksgiving afternoon. We eat early.
eat early? And with an anticipated project time of 20 months, so or 2 years, till we can welcome people into our first workforce housing project in Rhinebeck. Ken, Charlie, Andy, thank you. Warren, thank you. Thanks to Jim Levy and our engineers, Christian Paggi, and all the input from everyone in the community. You know, it's not perfect. It's really, really good. And I hope that it serves us well, and it's just the beginning.
I know it's not a public hearing, but I'm curious, when will the planning board have its first, have
I
this
believe
on
they're on the planning board for the second
next Monday?
month of the first meeting in June. Planning board has pretty limited scope on this because we have accepted the concept plan, and they can zhuzh around with it within the acceptance of our concept plan, but we took lead on this. The planning board did not want to work with us on environmental review, so we did everything on the project with public input, and we're looking for a short turnaround time. And I guess that Warren or some of us from the town board can go and babysit this through.
I was just wondering if I should put my green sweater
Not
on
yet.
this summer.
I would keep your green sweater out of the mothballs and go to the planning board.
It's going in the Hall of Fame. We're going to put it up on the wall.
All right, Ken, anything?
Thank you again.
Thank you.
All right, guys, we'll see you soon. Thank you. Is everybody going to leave now?
No, not everybody, you're parking people.
Okay, thanks, guys.
Go ahead. Can we go? Yeah.
We have a presentation for SEEP, the Center for Economic and Environmental Partnership, and we've been working with SEEP for what now, two years? We had Emily, but she's gone.
Yep, Emma
Emma.
went to Denmark.
Denmark,
Started getting her master's in Denmark.
Masters in Denmark,
Yeah.
that sounds,
But Emma,
Yeah.
I was here.
that's sad.
We all joined Emma.
Yeah, I would like to go to Copenhagen for a master's.
Yeah, so that's where Emma is. But she knows your town really well and helped to create some of these
As
beautiful plans.
do you.
As do I,
Yeah,
yes.
so why don't you introduce yourselves and take us through
Yeah, we'll
this
start.
work that we do.
All right, so hi, everybody.
You gotta go right up to it.
All right, so hi, my name is Kim Eastlick, and tonight Janelle and myself will be presenting the Town of Rhinebeck's Climate Action Plan, GHG Inventory, Vulnerability Assessment, and Adaptation Plans. And sort of, as was just mentioned, I'll be taking over the responsibilities as SEEP's Sustainability Coordinator from my predecessor, Emma Kaminsky.
I need your cell phone so I can call you all the time.
Of course. I will do that through the presentation. Yeah, so it's actually only my second full week at SEEP, so while I won't be speaking to the content of the presentation, I look forward to answering any future questions after the presentation and after any feedback we implement from this. Thank you. I'll hand it over to Janelle.
Okay, thank you. There we go. All right, great. So I did not memorize as well as Kim clearly did, so I apologize. I'll be doing a little bit of reading. But yes, thank you, Kim. My name is Janelle Pizarnik. I'm the Executive Director for the Center for Economic and Environmental Partnership. We call ourselves SEEP. It's much easier. So we can just go with that, so we're C. The goal of this meeting with you is to summarize the work that has happened over the course of 2 years. We have completed some really great plans for the town of Rhinebeck in support with members of the community and HVRC and the town board. So we would like to present the work that has happened over the course of those 2 years, what we're currently working on, and then what we would like to continue to work on for years to come. Okay, great. So we started with the GHG municipal inventory. We did this in 2023. We inventoried the year of 2019 because, as we all know, the years after 2019 were a little bit weird. And so we went with like a business as usual year, something that was a good baseline. And we inventoried all municipal operations emissions, not residents and not businesses. We also we took that inventory and we worked on a climate action plan that would reduce emissions or look to reduce emissions in a way to follow the CLCPA to reduce emissions by 2030. Then we did a climate vulnerability assessment. That was done in 2020, and then there was also a focus group conducted in 2024. And those two were combined to create your climate vulnerability assessment and adaptation plan. So I'm not sure if y'all can see this, but I'll stand back here. So this is your inventory with the landfill, Stone Church Road landfill. As you can see, all of that dark blue is the emissions from the landfill.
From our capped landfill.
The capped landfill, correct. So we then, whoops, sorry about that. Can you access me? All right. So after looking at how much emissions the capped landfill emitted, we then kind of pulled those emissions out and looked at the emissions without the landfill, just to get a better sense of, okay, we know we have this landfill. We know that a lot of things, a lot of municipalities contributed to that landfill. It's not all just the town of Rhinebeck that contributed to that. So therefore, it's not just your emissions. So pulling that out made sense so that we could develop a plan of how to mitigate the emissions that did specifically come from the town. We're not ignoring the landfill, we just pulled it out so we could look at it differently. So now, without the landfill, you'll see vehicle fleets, the orange, and buildings and facilities is the light blue. So those are your biggest areas, or the municipal's biggest areas of emitters. And so we looked at, when we wrote the climate action plan, we also looked at those two areas in order to reduce municipal operations emissions. I'm just gonna ask you to, I don't wanna mess it up again. I don't know what I'm doing, so. You're the best, thank you. Okay, so the CLCPA is asking communities to reduce emissions by, these I don't have totally memorized, 33% by 2030 and 78% by 2050. Now that's based off of 2019 levels. So we did your inventory, 2019, we got this baseline. The CLCPA wants us to reduce from 1990, and from 1990 to 2019, we already estimated a 7% reduction just because of grid maintenance and upgrades and things like that. So now we're looking for another 33% by 2030. So we wrote a plan that meets those goals. And that plan, this is where it gets a little bit in the weeds, so that's the part I have to really kind of look at. But that plan, we looked at it in different strategies of how we could potentially reduce the emissions of municipal operations through several areas. So the first one is solid waste. And the low-hanging fruit, this is an easy one, is just passing an environmental friendly purchasing policy for municipal operations. There's already a framework the New York State uses, so that is a really good low-hanging fruit way to reduce your emissions. The next one is to install a solar array on top of the landfill. There is a project in place already that the town is involved in, and that work is funded for a feasibility study for that solar array. That funding is on pause, but we are very hopeful that it will come back to fruition. Another part of that plan, it's the CPRG funding. Another portion of that plan is to put a biofilter on top of the capped landfill that will reduce emissions, they're largely methane emissions, will reduce emissions by about 40%. It fluctuates based on time of year, but that's what we can anticipate to reduce. So we said we're not ignoring the landfill, we just pulled it out of the numbers. So there's still a plan in place that could support that. And like I said, the project is in process and on pause for right now. The other area that we focused on was building and facilities. So converting facilities to space heating to heat pumps from oil and kerosene. The biggest buildings that have emissions are the biggest contributors to your emissions, the highway garage, the town hall, and the maintenance shed. So we would look to focus on those areas first. And then in the vehicle fleet sector, another low-hanging fruit, anti-idling policy for municipal operations. And these are not even the anti-idling and the environmental purchasing, because it's hard to gauge how much they would reduce. They're not in the model of reduction. So that would be over and above meeting the 2030 goals. So the anti-idling policy and a fleet efficiency policy, so that we can look to phase out any of the municipal fleet that is not EV or hybrid, that you can. Like, there's obviously vehicles that are municipal operations that you can't use those vehicles, but when you can. And SEEP did write a grant recently, and we were able to secure an EV for the town. So there is funding available for this type of work. The next area was the natural resources sector that we looked at in putting your plan. And this is converting municipal land to low or no mow, eliminating landscape needs and some landscaping costs by doing cover cropping that doesn't necessarily need to be maintained, things that are drought tolerant and things like that. So that's everything that's in your climate action plan, the strategies. And this graph shows you that this green line here shows you that by 2030, you would be below that green dotted line if you were to implement these strategies. And even further below with things like the green purchasing policy and the anti-idling that are not in this model. Okay, so that's the GHG inventory and the climate action plan. Then we moved into the vulnerability assessment. So this focuses on not mitigation, but adaptation. So we're looking at the impacts of climate change on municipal operations and on the land and on the community, and then how can we adapt from that. So let's see here. That is basically, in a nutshell, what a vulnerability assessment is. Now I'm gonna have to, okay. So we took that 2020 assessment and that 2024 focus group, and we wrote your climate vulnerability adaptation plan. And then you go to the next one. Okay. So the three areas we focused on was infrastructure, environment, and social. We highlighted some repairs that needed to be done in the infrastructure. The culvert repairs that were identified, there's 3 of them, was a concrete culvert repair on Landsman Kill Main Stream bed, Acker Cook Road, and an upsized drain and culvert repair on Mill Road.
How did you get that information? Because our highway superintendent is in charge of this.
Well, this Emma would have pulled together with
Bob?
With Bob, yeah. I know that she had conversations with the department heads.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yep. And so these were highlighted as areas that would help with stormwater management, which is our next, green infrastructure and stormwater management, which is our next area we looked at. So these strategies identify key locations, those three we mentioned, that were identified for implementing green infrastructure to effectively manage the stormwater on a watershed-wide basis. And by strategically targeting these areas, the town can address stormwater management holistically, improving resilience and water quality. And the strategy is particularly relevant for flooding of public roads and private property. And it's important to note that that was one of the most commonly expressed concern in both focus groups for the vulnerability assessment. Another thing that was mentioned in these assessments was the microtransit or ride-sharing program, that residents expressed their desire for local public transportation options, both in the case of emergency evacuations and for daily life purposes. Residents highlighted elderly residents, residents with disabilities, and residents who do not own private means of transportation are especially vulnerable during storm events and power outages, and they highlighted that as a concern for them. We also looked at tree monitoring and maintenance. The town of Rhinebeck, I don't have to tell you all this, your natural environment, including your trees, are one of your greatest assets. And increasing the capacities, it increases the capacities town to withstand the effects of climate change, providing shade in high heat events, absorbing floodwaters, and stabilizing soil in non-developed areas. The continued maintenance of Rhinebeck's canopy coverage, including the removal of infected, dead, and dying trees, is a critical component of the environmental adaptation strategy and will work to improve the overall tree health of the rest of your trees. Then we focused on public education. This initiative could be a community campaign and would empower residents to independently prepare for climate change and hazards that they see around them. And it is something that can be done as a Climate Smart Community grant program. So there are community campaigns that involve public education that you could be available for grant funding for. And then we looked at identifying and mapping high areas of social vulnerability. So creating this map to identify these areas within the town, such as the 100-year flood areas and the 500-year flood areas. Identifying low-income and elderly neighborhoods that might need support during a hazardous event, and any proximity to EPA reporting facilities such as brownfield or Superfund sites, things like that, and the age of infrastructure of your sites. All of this would be a valuable tool for decision-making and future development projects, which I know you all just had a really big win tonight for that. That was exciting to be a part of, a witness to. All right, so I think we can go to that one. That's great. Oh, yeah, you're good. Thank you. So that concludes the summary of the 4 main areas of work that we've done since 2023. The next steps are for the town to incorporate feedback from the board, from you all, from residents, and then following that feedback to adopting, making any edits and then adopting these plans. The CAP team, or the Climate Action Planning team that we support, could then strategically work towards implementation of these plans, knowing that we have the buy-in from the larger community. I did want to let you know, you do the next one, that you can find all of these plans in its entirety on the website, the town's website. There's also a QR code here and a feedback form on the town's website. So after looking at the plans, if you wanted to give feedback, there's a link to that form. You can see the full inventory that was completed and the data on the assessments that was completed as well. I think that's everything I have.
Wow.
Unless there's questions.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank
You've been working on this for such a long time.
Yeah, we've been doing this for a minute, right?
Yeah, through COVID too, right?
Yeah, it started even a little bit before the 2023 mark, for sure.
Thanks, Gina.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Any questions that you want to?
No, I'm hoping that the grants will come back for getting solar on our landfill. And,
Yes, I do have hope. I do have hope for that one.
I'm having a meeting with Jason Angel tomorrow.
Oh, great.
solar.
Oh, that's great. We work very closely with Jason Angel.
We just need to be able to feed it back into the grid, which is what the grant would have been for.
You're right, exactly. And there are other grant opportunities available, so I would just like to plug that we have the ability to support the town in a greater capacity. And, you know, as we grow into this and if we need support in implementing these plans
We
going
do,
forward.
we need a lot of support.
We can support it. We can definitely do that.
Thank you.
Absolutely. All right, I'm gonna unphone. Thank you so much. All right.
I guess we should, are there any questions or comments, Dana, next steps with this? We'll just sort of digest it?
Yeah, we're really hoping that, you know, a lot of people take a look at it and provide feedback and support. And even if it's just like, yeah, it looks great, thumbs up, that's welcome too. You know, just, it's hard to get a read on the room when we're the only ones who are mic'd. Well, this is your opportunity to get that feedback in.
The survey is not long, the feedback form, so I encourage folks to take it. We tried to make it really user-friendly, but a good way to get your voice heard.
Now, is the filter project on hold too?
They're all part of the CPRG funding.
Because of a federal government thing, you guys may have heard of it.
Yeah.
All the environmental stuff is not being supported.
Yeah.
Okay, well, we'll wait and hope.
Wait and hope.
I just have a question. So how much of this is on hold because of the funding situation, the grants?
Just the things that have to do with the landfill, which
Okay.
of course is the biggest emitter, but NYSERDA still has funding opportunities available. The CFA was obviously.
Yeah, our two biggest projects that we wanted to do
Yeah.
now, which was mitigating all the methane at the landfill, our largest source of, you know, carbon, and then getting solar up there, because I think as solar's, you know, age, we all realize maybe putting solar arrays on prime land isn't the best thing, so the best place to put it is on a capped landfill, in our opinion. But we have to get it fed into the grid up there.
Yep, absolutely. Anything else?
Well, we're ready when it comes back, so.
Yes.
Thanks,
Yeah.
Janelle.
I think
Kim,
that's
good to meet you.
Nice to meet you as well.
Thank you, Dean.
Have a great meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I guess, call me crazy, but we should probably talk about Line Cliff parking reading around. Chadwick, take it away.
Sure.
Well, then what, do we have a tab for this, or?
It's into the discussion item, so we're pushing it all the way to the back.
Do we have maps and stuff in here?
Yeah, there were maps up front of
Okay, tab 21.
tab 21. And there's more maps up front for people to speak to. I have a couple of things I'd like to focus on in the new revision that was done, which are, you know, have basically removed the one-way parking concept except for one street, which is Kelly.
Only on that side of the monument.
Yeah.
Well, but Kelly is one way, and parking would only happen on one side, correct? There's no parking on the monument, which I think has to be intact, kept. I just would like to invite people to come up, but I just want to say my couple of points and then move on, and then let's, anybody come up and come to the mic, please say your name and what you'd like to talk about. One of the things I want to do is extend the 15-minute parking area that is set up in front of the post office is from, I think, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. That's going to remain that. But what should be done is an additional change or a secondary sign stating at 5 p.m. you can then use it for 3-hour parking. So for evening events and events going on, that then opens up 3 to 4 parking spaces to be legal up to, I think, 8 o'clock at night. Or
Say that again? I thought
in
that
front of
was-
the post office, there's a section that's a 15-minute parking section in front of the post office. It's there for a reason, so people don't park for too long. At the end of the day, it depends on the size of the car, but I've seen 3 or 2 or whatever. But the point is that that ends at 5 o'clock. There hasn't been any posting to it, but as we move toward putting up 3-hour parking in the areas that have been designated for 3-hour parking, that we put a sign that says after 5 or from 5 to 8, you can park here for 3 hours in front of the post office in the evening, which opens up spaces for the library rather than having 15-minute parking, which is, it's kind of understood that after 5 people park there and go to the library and do stuff. I want it in there that it's covered for anybody who parks there to not have any ticket or anything, that they can park there in the evening for 3 hours and then move on. There's a small change that needs to be made in the map and the way the legend is, particularly on the, there's a portion that's purple stating parking along the ramp that goes down to the dock that's on the exterior side, the west side of the road, the river side of that ramp road, which is incorrect. It should be on the interior and on the ramp only on the east side of that road, or the railroad track side.
And that's really only for recreation park.
And that's really, it's the same conditions of recreational parking. It's not dedicated to 3-hour parking. But that's just, I believe, a mistake by the engineering firm placing it in the wrong position, which they had done prior. And that's okay, not a big deal. Outside of that, I'm going to let other people speak and what they want to do. And if you have any questions, please, or anything you want to ask about the plan, let me know. So, opening up the mic to the public.
Before we do that, this came out of a meeting we had in Rhinecliff. When was that?
March, I think.
March, where we presented a plan to, the problem in Rhinecliff is that the streets are too narrow to allow for parking on the streets unless we make streets one way. And we overwhelmingly heard you guys that you didn't really want one-way streets and you didn't really want parking in front of your homes. So this is where we ended up with 22 spaces where we can park, plus the 15 to 16 spots in our town-owned parking lot, which we will do 3-hour parking with, and then overnight we'll allow for overnight parking, I think, from 10 until 8. And we're thinking about using an app for all of the parking for ease of enforcement.
Okay, that's correct. That's down here on the map.
Just a quick question, Chad. You mentioned about the after 5 o'clock, 3 hours, we can be
Well,
parking.
Yeah.
In front of
What
the post
about
office.
What about Sunday?
Should be 3-hour parking on Sunday, too.
Okay.
I think.
I mean, the post office is closed.
Yeah. And
Well-
holidays.
Corner store's open.
Yeah, the corner store's open. I mean, that's a good point.
Do you want to make it 1-hour parking on it? I mean, less, or, I mean,
No, I mean, what he's stating is that on a weekend, Sunday only, the post office is closed. It could be amended into the sign itself. I mean, this, again, how to build it language-wise.
the other thing is that we don't envision a lot of parking signs here. We envision
Yeah.
a sign in the north and south saying no parking unless it says you can park. And then with the app thing, we want it to be really minimal. So we're sensitive to that.
Yeah.
You know, and I mean, I know this is, the reason why we're doing this again is because we didn't want you guys to become the de facto parking lot for Amtrak. If we find that it doesn't work or it's too restrictive, we can, I don't know. You know, do we want to make Orchard one way up to Cornell so that we can get 6 spots on the side of the fire department?
Oh, a one block, one way?
1 block, 1 way. That's the only thing I could think of.
It's an interesting idea. It's an interesting idea.
I think, if I'm not mistaken, my read was that in Rhinecliff, the people were like, this is a walkable community despite the fact that we have no sidewalks. And part of that is that, you know, cars behave like they expect to see people. This is a dream scenario. We all know that some of those cars come flying in for the train station. But in this dream scenario, the concern is if we make Orchard one way, that creates kind of a, you know, traffic loop effect and cars are going too fast. And so the objection to one-ways was not, we don't want cars parked there. It was, we don't want to create this rip-roar running around. But maybe a 1 block one-way doesn't do that.
Think about it. I mean,
That's not a horrible idea to my mind right now, but I'm just hearing it for the first time, so
I just thought of it like last week.
I'm mind melding all you Rhine Cliffians think through this. From Schatzel to Corning, yeah. So between.
Yeah, from like just in front of the the fire department commute, like where we used to vote. There's like, I think you could get an extra 5 spots there, I think. Why are you shaking your head, Shelby?
Because I really am concerned about, yes, we want it walkable, but there's KIPS, there's Epicurean, there's Morton Library, to say, oh, we're gonna open up 5 whole spots for 3 hours after 5:15, is that actually enough? Because whether or not the fantasy of Amtrak, right? Like, we have one of the most trafficked Amtrak stations in this whole area.
4th in the state.
Yeah, well.
4th in the state.
And we've had a population explosion, right?
No.
So, well, whatever. I used to be able to drive down to Amtrak and park in inclement weather. I cannot do that now.
So, but how does this affect parking?
So I worry about, of course, people who are going to Amtrak are going to park where they can.
Well, they'll be ticketed and towed.
And it's going to affect the parking that's available for businesses. So I just feel like.
But like the minimum amount of time you need to be able to park to get away with the
Hold on,
Amtrak
let's
cars.
just, can we stick with this? I don't understand.
Well,
you want more parking,
I think there has to be more parking.
but you don't want one-way streets.
I didn't say that. I wasn't
I'm
involved in
asking.
that. I don't know. I don't understand enough about the one-way streets. Some people felt like the consultants didn't say it was illegal to have parking and emergency vehicles. So I still don't understand the fundamental.
The takeaway is this: it's a width problem. We don't have clearance to allow parking unless we make it one way. That from our attorney who was working on this warrant, not you, another attorney, and who did this for us?
Labella.
Yeah, I mean, that width that we had originally, that was where the signs that were put in there on Orchard was done at a period of time, and that has now changed over those several years. So that is a problem
we see
we're
that
running
even
into.
with our plan for the trail, the rail trail. New York State has just changed guidelines. So width, we need 10 feet now instead of 8.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the thing is, I know, I wasn't paying attention to WhatsApp today, I've been tied up, but I know that law that Avery sent around, the yield roads or whatever. So what we understand based on what, this was way back, that first thing I shared with you about feedback, the idea that there was a different standard that could be applied because, there's this thing like a yield road. So Labella told us, the consultants that do this, that the yield road is actually meant to be in a city environment where you have a whole different infrastructure of how the street works, and so the drivers are very cognizant of things. And we're sitting there with our Hamlet view, and we're like, oh, there are cars parked here. People can see, they'll know it's a yield street. What Labella told us is that this is really only accepted by New York State in a city environment. I mean, I don't know, I'm trusting them on this. To my mind, I'm crazy. I go by the seat of my pants. I'd be like, let them park. Let's make it a 2-way and let them park. Who cares? But because of all these fantastic Amtrak parkers who've left their cars for a month at a time in front of our houses, we've gone down this path a little bit. And once we actually write this into law, we're kind of stuck with some of the laws that are in place from New York State. So the feedback we got was that they were basically like, you can't do a yield street here.
Is there any way to get, to see that law? Because I've looked online, I've been trying to find out,
It's a safety guideline.
where is it?
It's a guide.
I'd have to look back at their original.
I'm sure Labella can give us reference to what they're talking, why they're enforcing, and what code it is.
That's determining the reason why it's not working as it is.
And how it is not to safety standards, and now that we know it, we know it, we have to recognize that it's not really. It's a liability for us now. It's to say, oh,
So has our lawyer, has Warren looked at?
we're not
What that is?
working with another lawyer on this. We have
Oh, all right.
another attorney. This was really to let people know before we start a local law process, what the there's just, like, we can't pull it out. We're dealing with,
Yeah,
so many restrictions.
it's very tough. I've been looking for signs for the Morton Library for probably 25 years. 25 years I've been looking for signs because right in front of the library and across the street, that is the worst area for Amtrakers to just park and for 3 days, 5 days.
Right.
Sometimes during the winter, even longer, and the winter is a mess. Because even overnight parking, there's no policeman, there's no
Well, we don't have a
patrol.
law to enforce now.
We don't have a law. Wait a second. During the winter months, there's no parking on the street
Correct.
between April and May or whatever. Come on, we
That's
have a
the
law
only law we
here.
have.
That's right.
correct.
So that's never enforced either. But my real concern is that area right there, we just have to get something up. And I think what we did at Morton was
Yeah, no,
3-hour
the section-
parking.
The section that you're talking about just doesn't have any signs whatsoever.
Correct.
That's the problem, and that's
For
what.
25 years I've been coming.
I can appreciate what you're saying,
Okay, so-
we all can, and we can't put signs into place until.
Until we have a law to
until-
put them in place for us.
Right, so
So why
that
don't-
can happen, that will happen once we finish this
But-
process. That's
Yeah.
basically it, to be very quick.
You can't just put up a sign with
Once
a,
we get
That's
this
great.
figured out,
what?
it
Great,
gets
I understand, we can't put
codified.
up a sign without a law, but we could have had a law 18 years ago, 20 years ago.
Well, there
23
was,
years ago.
it just wasn't
It was
codified.
never sent into the state by previous town boards.
Okay.
Yeah, which is not in the purview of what we've done, but I'm trying to tell you where we're gonna go. And where we're going is, once we get this settled, 1 second please, and we put it into code, and it is brought to Albany and codified, right? Then we have the ability to put the signs in place.
Or
And
not,
some of those signs will-
or the signs that just say no parking unless there's a sign that says you can, because we want to be sensitive
Well,
to.
that's what I'm afraid of, that would have so many signs with,
So we hear that, and that's why we're also maybe just an app so that people can see if they can park or not. We're very aware of that and we want to respect it.
Yeah, and so if there is parking in front of the library that is allowed, we want people to know you can park there, which is, there is no signs anywhere.
We're prepared to get additional, we only have 14 shifts a month from the village police. We're ready to either get a peace officer, constable, a retired federal agent who lives in Red Hook who's willing to do it, or contract with the sheriff more frequently too.
just as a comment on that, they should come in midweek, not on a Monday or Friday.
We'll
Only
figure it out.
because that's where, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday is
Let's
where.
get the law passed and we'll,
All right,
maybe,
and then,
and also, Richard-
let's get it codified.
Yeah.
Yes.
Richard, like the scofflaws, and Shelby, what you're saying, like the problem with the parking, it's the scofflaws, it's the Amtrak, I own a weekend home up here and I leave my car for 4 weeks at a time. Like
or I
that's
go
the
to
whole-
Bard College and it's staying here over January.
Yeah, so I mean, these are the problems that have us all here at an uncomfortable and less elegant solution than we'd like. But the great news is, when you see a car parked there and it's parked in front of the Epicurean for more than half an hour in the middle of the day, you call and they get towed. And you see someone parked out in front of the library and you're like, this Amtrak parker. It's an Amtrak parker. They're going to be there more than 3 hours. Yoink.
Give who a call, not me.
No.
Well, first you have to have it ticketed. It can't be towed without a ticket.
Yeah, the procedures that go on will continue with how towing can take place, but as you all may know from Rhine Cliff and have walked around, Amtrak has ended the Shangri-La of parking forever, and they now have a QR code and you scan and you pay. I'm hoping that there's a limit on that in terms of how many days or how many hours you can do it. But the point being is that now people who are there can't stay there for months or weeks at a time.
It'll tighten up more in 2026 after they do the parking lot and have it striped and properly monetized.
But
They do have a drainage issue at the far end of the south lot that we're trying to work with them on so they can get more spaces.
Yeah.
I don't think we're gonna know what the true give on parking is until they have it paved. And the thing that's taking time now is the federal environmental review, because that's all backed up now.
But I do have a wonderful story to share. My parents took us to Lion King for a matinee, and they're older, and they were like, we don't want to walk down the driveway into the train station. I was like, oh, we'll never get parking. It's raining, there's no way. Friends, let me tell you, I pulled into that short-term lot that's literally right next to the station, and the sign was up, and I did the snap code, and I parked. There was no one clogging that lot, and I was able to just snap code and park. And it was, I can't promise it will be this way for everyone, but I felt so much hope and joy in my heart that I almost posted to Facebook a picture of myself in front of a parking sign. So I have hope, guys. I have hope.
Hallelujah, sister.
We're all Ruby.
So you were saying if we make some decisions that we could actually maybe also change those decisions.
I mean, we're not here to make life miserable. We're concerned too. We want people to go to Morton. We want, get people to go to, oh, Debbie, I'm sorry, I'll get in a second. Thanks for your patience. It's just, we can't pull what we don't have out of a jar. I'm mixing metaphors.
No, I'm just wondering if once you've gone through this codifying
I may not be in office, but I would hope any board here would be willing to change it. I mean, that's what good government, we try and listen and adapt. We don't want you to be a de facto parking lot. We want people to enjoy the amenities down there. I'm also working with Elijah Bender to try and get him the requisite 20 spots he needs so that he can open the hotel again, fulfill the terms of his special use permit. We know, we want the area to be thriving and
then I'm also curious about if these 3 spots have this rule and these 5 spots have this rule, and then you go up the hill and there's 4 more spots with another rule, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just
I
wondering.
don't think it's that. I think it's much more uniform.
So it's just the part in front of the Epicurean that we...
Right, and I mean, do we want it to be 3 hours
Well,
or
in
1
front of the
hour?
post office essentially is what it's there for.
Right.
And that the Epicurean obviously is involved in that, but what I was concerned about is exactly what you're pointing to. Once we send it, and get it done, and it's laws, and we put up a sign saying it, that I don't want any misinterpretation on that area so that it can be utilized into the evening, not for 15 minutes at a time, but after 5 o'clock and the post office is closed, those should become available for after 5 o'clock. It shouldn't just have to be empty because it's only 15 minutes. If that's not written, that becomes vague. And if it's vague, a cop can tip right in, and then it's done.
We'll try and adjust it as we can. The other thing
And it would
is,
be that same 3-hour set.
or maybe
not
that
different.
doesn't work. Maybe it's, we're trying the best we can. We don't know, and it's very limited what we can do down there without having people park in front of your homes, which are right on the street. We heard you. We're sensitive to that. The other thing is we do have the 16 spaces in our lot, which will, 3 hours during the day, and we want residents who don't have parking to be able to park there overnight, and we will charge a fee, I don't know, a couple of dollars or something, with an app-based. So we want to be able to, Debbie, why don't you, I've been going on and on, you've had your hand up, go ahead.
Yeah.
No. I just want to express again, like I did last Tuesday when we were all together, that I also have a lot of ambivalence about this plan. I love my Rhinecliff people, not just...
Where do you get your coffee?
The Epicurean. Chad and Dana, and of course Kristen, my dear friend, and Sandy. I know you all very well. I certainly don't want to be the one to tell you, I don't live on the Hamlet, I don't want to tell you that your as Elizabeth said, that the hamlet needs to become a de facto parking lot. You know, on the other hand, I was so lucky to get to Rhinecliff on Saturday to hear Driftwood perform, and Kristen, you're in Driftwood. And Driftwood is a chorus of basically, is it mostly Rhinecliff, or no, it's people from all over, okay. So they performed at Morton Library. This performance was so stunning. It was so incredible.
Great.
I got there. No, I got there early, and Chris and I had to park in front of your house, which is halfway up Orchard, because on both sides of the street, like every single.
Was there parking available in Amtrak?
I didn't go down there.
There was.
There was a parking available on there?
There was another event earlier in the week, and I took a walk to see, and Orchard was filled up on both sides.
Can I just say that particular point?
Sure.
There were 4 cars on Kelly, right across from the library, that had been there for 3 days on the street.
Yeah, and that's we can tow those people.
Those same cars are always there.
No, I live at the house.
Oh, I mean, the cars
They were parked
towards,
for the train for 4 days. 4 cars.
And that's what we're.
That's the main problem.
Yep.
Yeah, and
I agree.
that's, again, like that's the.
you mean like between, across the street from our parking lot?
Across the
No,
library.
no.
Right in front of that house on Kelly.
Triangle,
Yeah.
the library's here.
That's
This section.
Yeah.
West
Where they
side.
park for the train.
85
Eight
Kelly,
days.
right in front of 85 Kelly.
Is that the Blue House, or no?
So I mean, does this sound like we're on the right
House right
track,
across the
that we're not on the right track? Is everybody,
What's the plan for?
hold on, Richard.
Sorry.
Well, I'm all for like codifying all these plans so that we can call, let's say, these cars have been there for 4 days, you can call
The police.
the police, not you. And you can call the police and have them remove those cars. But on the other hand, I think no parking at all on Orchard really limits.
I agree totally.
Yes.
We can't do it without being one way.
But I think that I don't know that there's an actual law.
It's
And
a
it's
safety
It's
guideline.
worked for centuries. There's
Yeah.
never been an accident on.
Right, but now that we know about it.
But it's a
and
guideline, it's not a
It
law.
has to get emergency vehicles through. And I mean, let me go back to, let me
You
go
don't
back.
have to enforce it.
They do get through, and there are so many rural town examples that have.
You know,
What does
go
that
back
think
to
about
Lavella and
Zach
get-
says it's not, he says it's not mandatory.
It's not mandatory, so
Yeah,
maybe
so-
the problem
Who says it's not?
Zach.
That's the,
Zach is not our parking engineer.
He said he read the report, I'm just telling you what he, and
Yeah.
it's a guideline, not,
this is the captain of our fire department.
yes, exactly.
I think what we should do is stop guessing.
Yeah,
Clear
that's what I'm
picture
trying to.
on both sides of this issue,
In our last,
so that it's clear.
yeah, in our
that
last
we-
meeting, it was
that's
recommended to us by the attorney and the parking engineer that we not allow it.
Great.
Okay, but I don't think that it's posing a safety hazard based on like life experience. And based on no one's died there, there's never been an accident, the road has been that way for forever. And I think that it would really displace a lot of Rhinebeck people from being able to enjoy the library.
Or people.
I'm on your side, like, we're trying to
Yeah.
solve this, and we all want more parking in Rhinecliff. We just don't want those Amtrak people going on vacation for a week in the city and not, and leaving their car, and
So
now we
you
could
want us-
call out those people.
No, we want it, so what
You
I'm
know?
getting is go back to Lavella
Yeah.
and see if there's any way we can do parking on specifically Orchard without a one-way street.
Yeah.
And what the law really is.
We're looking
Yes.
for a second opinion.
What the law really is, but as well, the postings that are there.
Keep asking until we get the right answer.
Yeah, that's possible, yes, that's
They're all
usually
saying.
where. But the postings that are there right now for 2-hour parking,
Hold on, Chad. Warren, do you have any input on this as just as fly-by-your-seat attorney?
How would you do that? No.
I mean, you're sitting here.
Where one does not know there are one.
I don't believe there to be from Schatzel, where Orchard meets Schatzel and heads north The 2-hour parking on the west side of the street, the river side of the street, only extends up to Hutton. It stops at Hutton, and then beyond Hutton there's no signage that I've found. So if there are signs on the west side of Orchard, past Kit and everybody's house. I haven't seen any on any yards whatsoever. There are 2-hour parking signs in front of.
Right. It doesn't mean anything.
No, I'm not saying, what I'm saying is that in terms of what was permitted before, it put it up to Hutton. Which is what was set at, and it is wider, and I've measured it. It does narrow at Hutton, and that is somewhat of a concern
So
in terms of its location.
Sorry to interrupt, but
Sure.
I got just a thought came. If we kept asking and got a different answer, would there be 3-hour parking on Orchard?
That would be great.
I think that would be,
Yes,
yes.
two or three, whatever.
Yeah.
Well, the standard we're working with now is 3-hour
Did
parking.
they say we can get there? It was another 10 or 12 spaces?
Yes,
Something like that.
yes.
And I think the Rhinecliff people are saying, what if the parking were just on one side of the street?
That's always been.
Oh, that's what
That was always good.
That's always been.
Yeah.
So,
I know what you're saying.
but if
Hold on, Jen. Are you thinking something?
no.
Is there any way, I mean, just because so much of this parking is for these events in the library, is there any type of, I don't know what,
We
amendment,
could
something
close,
that happens for a public?
we could close Orchard Street for parking for event, for library event. I don't know. Like, that can be done, I think, just by the,
But we still
the
want
highway superintendent could let us do
So you would
something.
just like block off a
Wait.
section and then?
Well, why are you laughing?
Because wait a second, you're saying that you can't have any parking because of emergency vehicles, and now you're saying you can close the whole thing?
With a permit from the highway superintendent, and there were people there to respond, sure. I mean, but that's like,
Because you would still have a throughway.
I
There'd
mean,
still
I don't
be-
know that we have the labor for that, or the,
It's an interesting idea, but in
I
terms
think
of.
it's complicated.
spitballing here, I'm
Yeah.
trying.
No, thank you for doing that.
Yeah, no, look, I feel that we've got some latitude. Sandy?
I'm just, sorry, sort of monitor this, but could you explain the municipal lot again?
Yeah.
We have 16 spaces there.
Right.
It's going to be open up to the public during the day for 3-hour parking,
During the day means what time?
from, I think, 8 a.m. until 10 p.m.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And then we will allow overnight parking for pay for residents who can't, like, there are residents who don't have off-street parking.
Of course,
Why,
okay.
but why would you
Oh, sorry, let me
demand,
just
I'm
add-
sorry for interrupting, Sandy, go ahead, finish.
Wait, Richard, sorry, just one quick question, or question, just a clarification. On that overnight parking for residents, just so you guys know, residents has to be everyone in the town of Rhinebeck. We can't make it residents of Rhinebeck.
It actually has to be anyone.
Yeah,
If we can't not,
I thought we could limit it to
No.
town. Well, but at any rate, it's overnight, but it's only from 10 p.m. So we're not really in danger of the long-term Amtrak abuse. So regardless of how this limitation isn't really local, it doesn't matter because the whole point is it breaks the circuit on the Amtrak scofflaws who've made us.
Well, but if you pay for overnight parking, so an Amtracker can go down overnight and come back and just pay for $3 or whatever you're saying. So it's like $3
from
parking
10 at
overnight for
night
an
until 8 in the
Amtrak.
morning, who's gonna go down to the city from 10
I'm just
until-
saying,
Chris had just going to a concert, you know what, and she's welcome to it, but I mean, like, I think our only hope here is that the parking limitations create this circuit breaker on the scofflaws, like that's the piece that we need. I like the one way for one block, because that solves our problem of allowing parking, and it doesn't create that
and the
circuit.
firehouse needs parking there.
And we know people are
Although what block was on what?
between Schatzel and Cornell and
Corning.
Corning, yeah. Schatzel and
So
Corning.
then if I had to get to Hutton Street, I'd have to go all the way around the hill and stuff.
If you were worried about
Yeah.
being seen on that one block, are you?
No one's going to be controlled.
No one will do it.
You'll never notice.
One less.
Finish up with this, I mean,
To be continued, you know, this is like a prelude.
well, let me just just say that thank you for coming and this.
Wait, there's a hand up there. Hold on, Jen.
Yeah, go ahead, Richard.
I've been here all night. I just want to say, having one block be one way just is a confusing addition to just having to drive.
We're just spitballing, we're just throwing.
I know, my whole idea
But the
was,
whole one-way thing would make driving around Rhine Cliff more complicated. Because there aren't too many streets. So
I
we hope
completely
that
agree.
we don't pursue that.
the only reason we've thrown that out there is because people seem to want that extra parking that's critical on that one block.
We gotta go back to La Bella and squeeze out.
Yes, it's hard. And just find out, like, it's a library.
Finish with Richard.
Let me just, one last thing. I don't think Orchard Street is broken. I think it's been working for a long time. I have a question about no parking around the triangle there. Are we changing that?
No.
15-minute parking?
No.
Because that would help,
What do you want?
the post.
Tell us what you want.
That would help the post office.
I agree.
That would help the Epicurean, and that would help somebody dropping off a
Yeah,
book.
why can't we
Just
park on that one?
15-minute parking around those two sides of the triangle would be incredible.
Oh, you mean right next to the memorial?
Around the
Yes.
memorial,
Yeah.
yeah.
Right against the memorial.
We used to be.
I parked there anyway.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we parked there, so, but
We all kind of did for 10 minutes. You know, get your mail. Yeah.
Okay, we'll put that in the docket, but there is 2 large no parking signs on the north side of the monument.
I don't know.
So,
Because now we're at a deficit
It's
for
the-
parking.
it's east and west.
There's a sign on-
15-minute, it just takes away from more places for people to park to go to the library. I don't know.
okay, we'll see about the memorial.
Chew on it.
I think that should
That's
be
something also
revisited.
to see about, also
I mean-
are there regulations around memorials in terms of.
We're gonna move on now. I mean, we have this on we'll have it on again. I'll go back to La Bella. I'll beat up Mike Barfield.
You don't have to beat up
Just
Mike.
because we're parking there, I mean, it's like, for us, it's a liability. And if we're told we can't do it, what do we say? We're gonna do it anyway?
Well, it's been working and no one's ever gotten hurt there.
Right,
Yeah, it
but
works.
just because it's been working, now that we know.
I did get someone just chimed in from Rhinecliff.
Oh, yeah, great.
Okay, but this is what she wanted me to add, that the only fatal accident in Rhinecliff was on Charles Street,
It doesn't-
which has no parking, so people drive faster.
But Kristen, it doesn't matter if we
But that's
know
what
that we're doing something we're not supposed to do. Like, we're like the government, so.
No, I get
We
that.
have to,
I guess it's
we're so much
questioning,
like it that we are.
it's questioning why they're saying it's not safe when it's never posed an issue.
It doesn't conform to safety standards, is what they've said.
Once the town knows about it, if there's an accident, then it's the town's
It's our
liability,
fault.
is what she's saying.
Yeah.
So it makes sense. I mean, we understand that.
But I think now we know, like, we go back to La Bella with the remit, we know it's safe personally. We're asking you just about liability, and we're asking you
We're
just.
asking you what the law is, why we can't do this. That's what we're asking. We're not asking them to make a judgment call, we're asking for the law. All right, we're going to move on. Thanks, to be continued.
Thank you so much.
Thanks. God, I'm sorry.
For coming.
Thanks for working so hard.
You ready to go yet, Warren? You want to hang out? Yeah?
No, he needs you for
More parking in Rhinecliff.
I need you for
There's not it. I got some. All right, well.
Yeah, right.
police officers want to do as well.
All right, everybody.
Good.
We'll beat this to death a couple more times before we get the local law in front of us. You like that now?
Let's go on to nice things.
We have composting buckets. Thanks for coming, guys. We have composting buckets available for village compost. I use them, and I get to drop my food scraps off on my way into town hall every day with the secret code, and it's very satisfying. So sign up. You got to onboard at the village, and then get your buckets from the clerk and the deputy clerk.
Do you have to live in the village or
You can live anywhere in Rhinebeck. Yeah, they've opened it up to town residents.
Yep.
And if there's a fee to pay, we'll think about paying for the residents, but right now it's for free. Okay, gosh, this is a long meeting, all right. We're going to do our business now, tab 3, 2025-153, Bocce Court Construction Award. Chad, would you like to make a motion?
I motion.
May I
I
have a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? You're going to get a bocce court, Nina.
Now if Nina stood up and stormed
Now,
out.
I also want to clarify, just to be clear, that the town is not responsible for raking and maintaining the court.
Really?
Nina has volunteered.
No,
She's
that
doing
is,
every
that
day,
is,
she said.
that is for the players to do. That is their responsibility, and also supplying their own
Pool.
balls. So, I just didn't want to make that clear, because that's,
We'll have a rake there with,
no, we will have tools available, and we'll be dealing with
we'll have signs up
benches
too that says
and,
no parking, no
Yes.
rake at your own risk.
well, as
15
well as, trying to keep people off the courts. It's not a sandbox, it's not a place to let your dog hang out. So these are things that you'd be surprised, because on the turf field, you'd be amazed what people like to do on
I
the
have
turf field.
I have an aside.
So I didn't mean to spoil that, but I'm just saying.
I was at the park on Sunday night and I said to somebody, thank you for keeping your dog on leash. And they got mad at me because, they're like, are you one of these people who wants dogs on leashes? I'm like, well, it's a rule here. And they're like, the rule sucks. They apparently had just put their dog back on leash after having it off leash. So you can't win.
And we also want to encourage for our dog owners to vaccinate your dogs.
All right, let's just stay with the, let's stay with our agenda.
Okay, yay, bocce.
We did that. So 2025-154 expansion of recreation parking lot. May I have a motion?
Motion.
Thank you, Alan.
Second.
Second, thank you, Chauncey.
Yay.
Aye.
Any questions, comments? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Passes unanimously. May I have a motion for 2025-155 recreation
Motion.
collection of fees for late pickup from camp?
Second.
I'll take Dana Colleen, and I'll take Alan. Are there any comments, questions, or concerns? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Passes unanimously. Tab 5, 2025-156, recreation purchase of refrigerator. May I have a motion?
Motion.
Thank you, Chauncey. May I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. I'll take Chad. Any comments, questions, concerns? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Passes unanimously. 2025-157 camp refund for Boy Kai. May I have a motion?
Motion.
Thank you, Chad. Chauncey, I'll take you as a second.
Right.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes unanimously. I'd like a motion for 2025-158 recreation skate jam event. Thank you, Dana Colleen. May I have a second?
Second.
Jeez, I can't go fast enough. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? If anybody wants to discuss it, just shout out because I'm getting pushed here. 2025-159 Juneteenth display. Thank you, Dana. May I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Alan. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes unanimously. 2025-160 recreation seminars. Thank you, Dana Collins. Too. Somebody have a second. Thank you, Alan. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Sounds like we don't care. We're just
No, we
rushing
do,
through
we've
this.
just been through this.
Replace, that passes unanimously, thank you. 2025-161, replacing the computer workstations for Town Hall.
Motion. Second.
Alan and Chauncey, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Passes unanimously. Amend fee schedule for event application.
Oh, motion.
Thank you, Dana
Second.
Colleen. Thank you, Chad. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Passes unanimously. Approving half marathon. I just want to say that this allows us to, we're going to talk about this for a minute. May I have a motion for approving the half marathon 2025-163?
Motion.
Thank you, Alan. May I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Dana. We believe most of the safety concerns have been addressed.
Yes.
How they go about doing it is another thing.
Well, that's why, I just wanted a quick question. I'm sorry to stop the flow of everything.
Yeah,
but-
sorry, to discuss something, that piece of business we're doing.
First of all, thank you for including everything that myself and other people on Mill Road wanted. Thank you. The fall marathon, the half marathon, is scheduled for Sunday, October 12th. Have you met with the event organizer?
Yeah, I
Discuss all this
virtually, I
stuff?
didn't go down
Yeah.
to Fleet Feet and buy some shoes.
Has he or she signed the agreement? Anybody from that organization?
Well, we've been in contact a lot. They are working up the plan for, so this is contingent on them getting Dutchess County E911 to sign off on the plan. And the plan is to include like sufficient numbers of volunteers, sufficient numbers of police coverage. And the thing we really harped on was you've got to have some extra cones and some extra kind of visibility and placement around places that are blind curves.
Yes.
And also notification to people where the porta potties are going to go. Because that was, I know that wasn't your concern. But
I'm not going to sign the agreement, we're approving it until we're satisfied, and we're going to rely on Peter Dunn to make sure that he's satisfied with E911. I'm hoping it'll be better, we'll see.
Oh, yeah, I hope so too. It's just that the town board meeting before the event is September 29th. Is there any way at that meeting we could be informed that the event organizer has complied with all the requirements in this resolution?
Yeah, you know what I'll do? I'll bring in the map with the information about where everything's going to be, like the final one.
Why don't we ask them to come to that meeting?
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
great.
Thank you.
Sarah, would you make a notice of that and just, we'll see, Bob. We'll see how it goes.
Back to the marathon.
I also want to note that we're only charging an event fee, which is minimal for for-profit marathons. The Ferncliff Forest Turkey Trot is still free. We don't, local for,
And I think we have to do the same thing for everyone.
we don't.
I think, okay.
I talked to Peter Dunn about it. This resolution says for-profit.
Right, okay, so I think that, like, just constitutionally, when you have, like, a fee by a municipality for, use of public spaces. it
Let's
is
have you
supposed to
check
be-
that out with
Okay.
an attorney,
Okay,
and we'll address it. And if
Okay.
we have to amend it for other things, we will.
okay.
How much is the fee?
$150.
All right, moving along. We are at,
I know, and the reason we're charging the fee is so Brian can go out and look, and we can have people have eyes on for these bigger things.
Well, yeah, that's the thing, the fee could be lower for a smaller thing, and the turkey trot doesn't cross any major roads.
No, it doesn't.
Yeah, however, it's a complete closure, whereas the fall foliage half is not a complete closure. So there are all these, but what?
I'll leave this in
I'm
there
stepping
for you.
back, I will-
I know you went to Columbia Law School.
It's a
You and
junk
Johnson can-
institution that's getting de-accredited right now.
I
Sorry,
don't
Johns.
want to mess up, but. Did we vote on this?
no.
Aye.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes unanimously. I'm going to lump tab 2025-164 and 2025-165 together. These are two tax certiorari cases for 118 East Market Street and 123 East Market Street. They're both owned by Elijah Bender. I don't know if you guys talked to our assessor. I did, and her recommendation is that we settle. Any comments or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Passes unanimously. 2025-166, hire consultant for Conservation Advisory Board, Jim Levy, who's our planner, is going to work with them. They don't have a secretary or an attorney or anyone. He's going to oversee all of their agendas and make sure that their site plans are going correctly and make sure that their doing things according to our law. I think we're anticipating 4 to 6 hours a month to get them, tighter and operational. Motion, do I have a motion?
Yes, motion.
Dana, second, Dana and Alan. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Passes unanimously. 2025-167, amend resolution 2025-149 for the Tubman Scenic Byway. May I have a motion?
Motion.
I'll take Dana because she did this, and then I'll take Chauncey as a second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Passes unanimously. I will lump the last three together. 2025-168 are preliminary accounts abstracts payables. 2025-169 are capital projects abstract, and 2025-170 are budget transfers and amendments. I will make a motion. May I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Chauncey. Any comments, questions, or concerns? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Passes unanimously. I just want to say that I was on Facebook today for a minute and a half, and I was tagged about 97 times. Apparently, Carrie changed the guidelines for unsupervised kids at the pool, and kids were getting turned away. She would like for it to be kids under 12 need a chaperone, and chaperone has to be over 16. It used to be 9, but I think she was having too many problems with that, and there was too much babysitting duties from the lifeguards. This was like a buzz on Facebook that came to me through Gina Fox, so I wanted to address it with you guys tonight. I told Carrie I'd support what she wanted to do. Some people are like, well, why can't it be the way it was? And I think it's because the pool's more crowded, and she feels more comfortable with kids 12 and over being chaperoned by 16-year-olds.
Well, under 12.
Chaperoned by at least 16.
Have to have their parents.
Okay, so that's, you said something different.
I said it used to be 9, and kids 12 and older can, like if you're 16, you can be there by yourself. But 12 to 16, you need a 16-year-old to chaperone you. And she doesn't want kids under 12 unchaperoned with a teenager, chaperoned by a teenager. She'd prefer parents. And I think this is a change for some people. I told her to use her judgment. I just wanted to see what you guys wanted to do. Some people might be upset that they can't drop their 10-year-olds off anymore with older siblings.
Well, I think we need to talk about it, but it sounds like an adjustment that's needed. It sounds like an adjustment that's needed. The idea of a 16-year-old as a chaperone for somebody under 12
For a 9-year-old.
For a 9-year-old. That's what she would like to do.
No.
That's it.
You have to be 12 or older to go there without your parents, but you could be chaperoned by someone else over 16, at least 16 years of age.
Okay.
If you're under 12, you need your parent or an adult. You need to be chaperoned by your own adult.
An 18-year-old and up.
I guess so.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, I don't think this has to come before the town board. I think we could just say we'll let Carrie adjust it as she sees fit and with input from the public.
Yeah.
It was just flying around at the last minute, and I figured, why not talk about it?
No, that's great. I'm glad. It needs to be cleared up, so.
Anything else? Anybody else have any comments, questions, concerns? Dan, you're here. Are you good? Hearing nothing, I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Thanks, everybody. We got workforce housing done. We'll see you in July.